4-degree below flow. What's the New York? You know what we're talking about. Under the tundra, the glacier, the iceberg tips. Check it, yo. Fizz is chillin', Buff is chillin'. What more can I say? Hot penguin, that's what you get. Got it good. 4-degree below flow, rock the hook. Right, 5-degree below flow, rock the hood. 10-degree below flow. Landed in the falls in the disco decking. Alright, welcome to another episode of Easy Styles Variety Society. And today's episode, it was kind of tough titling it because it's a multi-dimensional title. We are multi-dimensional beings, and then the concept of being true versus being real, or realistic, or versus truth versus reality. And the reason I'm putting these two together in the background, I'm thinking about the fact that we have a responsibility to more than our third dimensional realities and needs and things of that nature. It's like we're a whole pie, but just saying we're just going to take one dimension, one piece of pie called the third dimension, or physical reality, and base the entirety of the pie around that piece. I mean, the piece got its weight within the pie. That's how we have to weigh it. And in doing so, and in that priority, as far as weighing things, I find in the biggest challenges I face, it always seems to come down to one of two choices, and it's versus being true versus being real. Real, I would associate to the slice of pie, like the third dimension reality, right? And true, I would consider more applicable to the entire pie, which includes the third dimension. So, truth is subject to, reality is subject to the truth. But that's the dilemma that we must stay on top of at all times, in all places, all dimensions. So, anyway, let's get started with the subject here. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is, what you mean we multi-dimensional? Okay, so the dimensions, when we go to the most scientific / layman thing I could go with, we got three-dimensional reality. You understand length, width, depth. That's the three dimensions. So let's do it like that. So the first dimension is looked at as basically your awareness of yourself. I think, therefore I am of yourself. Right? And I have some graphics today. That's going to be represented by, let's call it the center of this dot. And that's that concept of I am, you're aware of yourself, first dimension. And then we have the second dimension. Now, I'm also looking at this abstractly, let's look at it abstract, metaphysically. So the second dimension to me starts when you have the concept of, you got your mind wrapped around the concept of, I'm here and there's a there over there. Even if it's not separate from you, you notice what you were thinking before, you notice another department within yourself, another faculty of yourself. You notice a here to there. You know what I'm saying? But for the concept of the circles, the graphics I have going, we're gonna leave it on the perimeter of the circle. We're a little bit beyond the circle even, to even hammer home the point of the there, because now you're looking outside the circle of your awareness. That's definitely a there. You know what I mean? Starting from here where the first dimensional dot is. So from awareness to a point of you're aware of what you were aware before, but did you notice there's an additional aspect? The second dimension. So you have a here to there, and what's the straightest way from here to there? The straight line, boom, right? So from that aspect, you can get to your length and your width. You know, straight line, looking at it from that aspect, or from looking at it from this aspect, you have width. So that's 2 lines. Boom, second dimension. So third dimension is when you add the aspect of depth. Now, abstractly speaking, depth is when something can be filled. To me, my mind wraps around it. Usually, thing that does the filling is the energy or the spiritual, right? And abstractly speaking, the structure would be the thoughts. You know what I'm saying? More linear aspects, and filling is more swirling, circular aspects. The energy that adds that dimension of being filled and having that quality, not just noticing it there, you know how to get to there, but you notice the details within the moment, and you know. So that's the third dimension. You add that volume to it and represent it in the graphics. Fourth dimension. Start off looking abstractly. So you got length and you got width. You notice the depth. You start looking things in the depths. You get to understand patterns and rhythm and process. But we're gonna keep it basic. But process is basically like seasons, which is basically a rhythm, which is basically getting to the concept of time. You know, this per that. You know, one log burning per moon. You know, you start timing things up based on rhythm. So that's basically the fourth dimension. People say it's time. I look at time as really subjective to a lot of the, basically the form of things. And that's why I like to use rhythm in the process, because like our time on 12 o'clock is basically based on our distance from the sun. But what about the time on Mars? It's got a different distance from the sun. And then you can, what about beyond our, you know, galaxy and things like that? Time is subjective to the form of things. So to narrow it down to something that could be more universal, I look at it more as you have the before, you have the after, but most importantly, you have the during, or the present, or the now, or being in the moment. And that concept is basically the fourth dimension. So now we go to the fifth dimension. The fifth dimension, from what my research is, to me, I can see it's relatively still unknown. Some hypotheses have been developed. Look at it for yourself, and looking at it for myself, I look at it like this. It seems like you have the awareness, and then you can expound it upon that for the second dimension, you expound upon that from the third dimension, and then you took all that and then put it in the setting of, okay, there's the aspect of this happening before this and after this. So you got the past, present, and future in this. So the fifth must encompass that as well, like previous dimensions did, and also must expand further as well. So the least I can come up with is definitely you can apply the concept of, okay, I have an awareness and it reaches out, or it reaches in even to, I can look at myself yesterday, and I can look at myself and imagine myself, because imagination is a faculty of the mind. It's kind of been, its value has been minimized, but it's very handy in creating, and we are creators. So, but anyways, so through your imagination, you can imagine what the future is. And it's the same soul holding all this that I'm thinking. I know I'm realizing this. That's as far as I've taken it. You know, that's as far as I take it. I kind of want to get it, kind of helps me look at things, all right, how do we use yesterday as a reference? Stay in the now to know what to reference in the past and what to aim at for the future. Having that fifth dimension, or that, well, including the fourth dimension and trying to hump it all into one fifth dimension, it's definitely a benefit you to have those added dimensions. Looking back to the past, understand what you've been through in your lifetime and what you've been through, what you're up to today, and aiming it at what you want to happen in the next hour, the next day, or how you want to set it up for, you in the future, in another life. Like how you want your spirit, your core spirit to have handled itself and its momentum carried you to a good place in the future as well. So that's me. So those are the dimensions. Also, in a literal term, talking about in literal terms, the fifth, like I said, is a question mark. I just gave my little 2 cents on it. And then we have, just looking at it like layman's terms, all right, you have your third dimension, right? Third dimensional reality, person's place or thing. I was like a field, few trees, couple big trees, cast nice shadow, a park bench. You have that setting, right? It's a 3-dimensional setting. It's a place and it's a thing. Okay, now when you add the person to it, the body's there, a person, a person, place, a thing, for this instance. But the thing about a person is we do come with with our full capacity. And third dimension, we're just some body sitting there. But as we get to talking to each other, first of all, what drew us there? That could be a whole nother talk of what dimension we came from, what place in your mind brought you to this place at the same time. That could be another talk of dimensionality as well. But we decide that we want our 2 families to have a picnic here on Saturday. So now this 3-dimensional setting has more 3-dimensional bodies in it, but we definitely had to go to another faculty beyond our 3-dimensionality to decide that we're going to create a picnic, basically, on Saturday. Now that's just sitting there with the table, the trees, and the grass. Now it's got kids running around, and you got aunties hollering at the kids, keep them in line, games being played, music being played, barbecue, and all of that. That is proof of another dimension, and that we have different aspects of ourselves that we use, and we owe it to ourselves to be more than just responsible to third dimension reality. Being, multidimensional being, what is a being? A being is that, again, that awareness that I am. It's also important to understand that am is a verb, so it's moving, it's in action. So it's being, it's moving, it's action. It's a verb, it's movement. It's life, movement. And also in that being, we must consider, if I am, and there's a bunch of I ams running around, we have to consider all that is. Basically making everything one. But that total oneness of all the little I ams, we're just going to call it all, this proper name is all is, identifying that it's larger than an I am. You know what I mean? And the I am is just a fraction of the all is. Now, we're talking about defining what a being, and how I'm stressing it today. To me, being is, you can't deny the I ams, and you can't deny that all is. It's like yin and the yang. So all of the alignments that align the I am up to all is, and all its healthy, meant to be natural ways, and all the dynamics between. So you got your structures. That's what I'm trying to align a lot for, is all your structures and all the energy. It has to be vibrating in the right way. All those energies between the little I am and the all is, that are best and most healthy situation. That is being. That is being. you know, ideally, that is being. So, and also, while thinking of that, I also thought about, you know, again, that yin and the yang, I am and the all is. And sometimes I still try to think of all is as just one by itself, like the little I ams don't matter. You know what I mean? Like it's God, God without the little I ams in it. You know what I mean? So a thought occurred to me that it says the universe's movement, it creates or necessitates individuality. So just for the sheer sake of movement, it necessitates individuality. I guess, and the first thing that comes to my mind is that second dimension from here to there. At some point when you're moving, the vibration is, you know, plus charge to minus charge. You know what I mean? There's a here to there aspect of it, and that creates or necessitates, maybe that's the way it always is, it always has been, it creates or necessitates us to consider things at individual, like, okay, that's an I am, and that's part of this whole one thing we was looking at, but we just see this distinct aspect that if we're understanding the I am, we have to acknowledge these two aspects and not forget about them. So, movement necessitates individuality. I'm in that with a question mark because it's just a thought I have. Anyways, getting back to the subject. Alright. So, we are multidimensional beings. I think I got that covered. Now, what about this true versus reality? So the first thing I want to start off is trueness. We're gonna cover the whole subject as trueness from the top, but we're gonna start with a reality. Each dimension. So we went all that over that dimension stuff, just to understand things are broken up over, and we are all of that, and we're not to just focus on just one of those aspects and rotate around that one aspect. We are to acknowledge all of the aspects. And each of those aspects has its own reality, so to speak. And for the sake of ease of thinking about it, I'm going to go to, like, say Star Trek, for instance. And they would travel or deal with so many dimensional being. Well, in that dimension, it had always had its own reality to it. Each dimension has its own reality. And therefore, again, that third dimensional reality, I'm sure everyone's heard that by now. We live in a third and three-dimensional reality. All right. Separating reality from truth. A reality is basically everything that is and everything that is thought of and behaved out in any particular reality, in any particular 3D reality, anything that is any particular reality, anything that is played out, believed to be how people think, dictates how a reality, enough people think it dictates how the reality is going to turn out. All that is reality. But reality doesn't necessarily have to be in tune with truth. Enough people can think and believe in a lie and have the culture turn out to be a lie. So we have to be able to separate and distinguish reality from truth. So all of those dimensions and all of those realities still constitute one whole. So the total constitution of all those individual realities, I would consider, when you look at the all is aspect, is the reality. So there's the reality on the greater aspect of the thinking of things from the whole. And then each individual dimension has its own reality. He'd be thinking around some crazy shit in his mind. That's part of his reality. That's real to him. But is it true? So we distinguish that. And what is truth then? we get into the quality of things I want to bring up, because quality, are we having a good life, bad life? We don't like good or bad. Are we serving a purpose? Is the purpose having value? You know what I mean? So truth, kind of like that, all that relationship between I am and all is. Truth is all the alignments and all the dynamics between the dimensions that are always best or always good. Mostly always true though, you know what I mean? But for the sake of purpose and the sake of quality, even in truth, we understand in truth, this makes this situation have a little bit more value than this situation. And we're just dealing with quality here. I'm trying to deal with quality here. So all the alignments and all the dynamics between all the dimensions that are always best or good. So I'm saying true energetically and true in thoughts and different ideas and different principles. And those truths are eternal. We get into realities, they're play by play, moment by moment, and they're more temporal in nature. Reality can be changed moment to moment. True, it is there through all that because it's there forever. It always has been that way. 1 and 1 has been 2 since 19 BC, million BC. True today is going to be true 19 million years later. You know what I mean? 1 plus 1 is always going to be 2. The reason I'm breaking it down to dimensions and isolating the third dimension is we're in a situation and a place where we're kind of held captive by our 3-dimensional addictions, entrapment in certain ways of looking at it, and a great deal of our challenges and evolving and growing or surviving even and making good quality decisions and being true comes down to separating being true or just surviving in this one reality, this aspect. I think it's easier for you to feel that true quality and feel bigger than this one reality, and understand not to be pressurized and not to be pressured just because one dimension is pulling on your heart. Always consider all the dimensions, and it's easier to summon the value of what truth is. It's easier to decipher, okay, I have to be true for all time. I have to be real for all times, and not just real for the 3-dimensional reality. Easy Style Variety Society, have a good day. Come get it. 4-degree below flow. What's the new we talking about under the tundra? The glaciers, the iceberg tips, and check it. Yo, Fizz is chillin', Buff is chillin'. What more can I say? Hot penguin, that's what you get. Got it good. 4-degree below flow, rock the hook. Right, 5-degree below flow, rock the hood. 10-degree below flow. Landed in the falls in the disco decade. Mix some reggae, just missed them LK. Great grands on